Commander Zix Thera stared at the dark control panel before her. Every light that should have been shining was dead. Every screen that should have shown data was black. Only emergency power kept a handful of red lights glowing in the darkness. Just days earlier, everything had been working perfectly. The Altarion research vessel Quantum Echo was on a routine mission to study distant worlds and their life forms. Nothing risky, nothing that should have gone wrong. But it had. Zix reached toward her communication collar with long, thin fingers. "Engineering report," she said, her voice musical and clear. Static crackled back then. "Commander, the engines are completely destroyed. We cannot repair them. The hyperdrive is ruined beyond fixing. We are stuck. Stuck." The word hit her like a punch. They were drifting alone in empty space, nowhere near any star system or shipping lanes or rescue. She looked at her crew of 12 Altarions. All scientists and engineers, all brilliant minds. None of them soldiers. None prepared for this. Dr. Keith Ali, the medical officer, glanced up from her scanner. "Commander, things are worse. Our life support is breaking down. The air recyclers are barely running. We have maybe 6 more days before the air turns toxic." 6 days, Zix calculated quickly. The nearest Altarion patrol ship was months away from their last known location. Even if their disappearance was noticed, which might take weeks, nobody would know where to search. "What about the distress beacon?" asked Veltar from communications. "We still have it working, but it is running on emergency power only. It will stop in 2 or 3 days, and there is nobody nearby to hear it anyway." Zix nodded slowly. She had hoped for better, but she had expected this. The Altarion Confederacy was vast, but space was far vaster. Ships vanished out here all the time and were never found again. She thought back to how they got here. They had detected strange energy readings near a dead star, readings that matched nothing in their records. As scientists, they could not resist investigating. They had found what looked like an ancient space station. Massive, incredibly old, older than any Altarion technology, maybe older than the Altarion species itself. "We should scan it," Dr. Kthali had urged. "Think of what we might discover." Zix agreed. It seemed harmless. The station appeared completely inactive. No power, no life signs, just an ancient structure floating in the void. But when they had begun their scan, something had awakened. The station burst into life all at once. Lights ignited across its surface. Weapons that had been dormant for thousands of years aimed directly at their ship. And then they fired. The Quantum Echo tried to flee, but it was too late. An energy beam struck their engines. Not destroyed, but completely disabled. The hyperdrive shut down. The main engines died. Even backup systems were damaged. They drifted away from the ancient station, but could not leave the star system. Could not call for help. Could not do anything except wait for the end. Bixtel, one of the engineers, approached. "Commander, all departments are reporting in. Food will last maybe 8 days. Water recycling works but uses enormous amounts of power. Heat is failing. It will become freezing in here soon." Zix looked at her crew's faces. They were trying to stay calm, but she saw fear in their large dark eyes. Altarions were thinkers and researchers. They solved problems with their minds, not with force or dangerous action. "We need a plan," she said, trying to sound confident. "Let us think about this logically. What are our options?" "We could try to fix the engine," suggested Nick Savra, the chief engineer. "With what parts?" Bixtel asked. "The damage is too severe. We do not have the components." "What about the escape pods?" Dr. Kthali asked. Veltar shook his head. "The pods only have life support for a few hours, and there is nowhere to go. We are between star systems." They sat in silence. Outside the viewports, stars twinkled like tiny diamonds against the black darkness. "Beautiful and completely out of reach. We should send messages," Zix said finally. "To our families, to the Confederacy. We should record what happened here. Maybe someday another ship will find our remains and learn from our mistakes." It was not much, but it was something. The crew dispersed to their tasks. Over the next 2 days, things grew worse. The ship grew colder as their power drained away. The crew wore heavy clothes and huddled together for warmth. They ate less to make supplies last longer, but everyone knew it would not help much. Zix spent her time on the bridge watching the stars and waiting for a miracle she did not believe would come. Sometimes she activated the view screen to look at the ancient station. It had gone dark after attacking them, as if it had returned to sleep. She wondered what species had built it, what they had been protecting. whether they had ever thought their creation would still be killing innocent travelers thousands of years into the future. On the third day, Veltar came to her looking worried. "Commander, the distress beacon is getting weaker. It will fail soon. Maybe 6 hours. 8 at most," Zix nodded. She had known this moment would arrive. When the beacon died, their last connection to the universe would be severed. They would be truly alone. "Keep monitoring it," she said, "and thank you. You have done excellent work under terrible conditions." The communications officer's ears drooped with sadness, but he smiled slightly. "It has been an honor serving with you, Commander." As the hours passed, the beacon grew fainter. Veltar called out power readings that dropped steadily toward nothing. The rest of the crew gathered on the bridge to watch. Nobody spoke. There was nothing left to say. "Beacon power at 5%, Veltar announced. 3%. 1%. "Commander," his voice was barely a whisper. "The beacon is—" He stopped. His large eyes went wide. He pressed his hands against his equipment and listened intensely. "What is it?" Zix asked. "I am getting a response," Veltar said, his voice filled with shock. "Someone is answering our distress signal." The bridge exploded with excited chatter. Zix felt her heart racing. "Are you certain? Who is it?" Veltar worked frantically at his controls, trying to boost their weakening receivers. "The signal is very strange, Commander. It is using old radio frequencies instead of quantum communication, but it is definitely artificial and getting stronger." "Can you translate it?" "I am trying, but the language is completely unknown." Wait, I think I have something." The bridge fell silent except for the soft hum of equipment. Then through the static and noise they heard a voice. It was harsh and alien, speaking in short, sharp sounds that their translation computer struggled to process. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Navy ship Defiant Resolve. We have received your distress signal. What is your status? Do you require assistance?" The translation was rough with gaps, but the meaning was unmistakable. Someone had heard them. Someone was offering help. Zix looked around at her crew. Their faces showed hope and fear together. This was an unknown species with an unknown ship. They could be criminals or worse. But they were also the only hope the Quantum Echo had. "Veltar, open a channel," she ordered. "Channel open, Commander." Zix took a deep breath. Unknown ship. "This is Commander Zix Thera of the Altarion vessel Quantum Echo. Our engines are destroyed. Our life support is failing. We desperately need help." There was a long pause. Then the alien voice came back clearer as their computers worked on the translation. "Quantum Echo, we read you. We are changing course to your position. Estimated arrival time is 47 minutes. Hold on. Help is coming." Veltar looked at his instruments and gasped. "Commander, they were not lying. I am detecting a massive energy signature approaching at incredible speed. Whatever kind of ship they have, it is far more powerful than anything in our databases." Through the viewports, a new light appeared in the distance. But this light was moving, growing brighter as it approached. As it got closer, they could see it was not a star at all, but a ship. A huge dark ship that seemed to swallow light rather than reflect it. "By the ancient ones," whispered Dr. Cathali. "What kind of species builds ships like that?" The approaching vessel was enormous, at least 3 times the size of the Quantum Echo. Its hull was angular and scarred, covered with weapon systems that looked built purely for destruction. It moved through space like a predator, graceful despite its size. "They are hailing us again," Veltar reported. The alien captain's voice filled the bridge. "Quantum Echo, this is Defiant Resolve. We are beginning docking procedures. Prepare to receive boarding parties. We are coming aboard to assist with repairs and medical aid." Zix felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold air. Boarding parties. These aliens wanted to come aboard their ship. With their military power, they could easily take over and enslave the crew. Or worse, but what choice did they have? Without help, they would all be dead within days anyway. "Acknowledged, Defiant Resolve," she replied. "We will prepare to receive your boarding parties." As the massive warship moved into position, Zix wondered if they were about to be rescued or conquered. Either way, their fate was now in the hands of these unknown aliens who called themselves humans. At least she thought they would not die alone in the cold darkness of space. The airlock opened and the first human stepped through. Zix had tried to imagine what these aliens might look like, but the reality shocked her. The human was shorter than most Altarions, but much broader and more muscular. Where Altarion bodies were thin and delicate, built for thinking and precise work, this creature was built for fighting. The human wore military armor that was clearly designed for combat. Its face was hidden behind a protective helmet, but Zix could see eyes that looked around the room carefully, taking in every detail. This was a predator studying its environment. More humans came through the airlock, all armed, all moving with the same careful, dangerous grace. Zix counted 6 of them before their leader stepped forward and removed her helmet. The human leader was female with short dark hair and skin darker than any Altarion's pale complexion. Her face was hard and weathered, marked by old scars, but her eyes, while alert and watchful, did not seem cruel. "Commander Zix?" the human asked. Her voice was rough but not hostile. "Yes," Zix replied, her own voice barely a whisper. "I am Commander Zix Thera." The human leader nodded once. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Navy. We received your distress signal and came as quickly as we could. What is your situation?" Zix looked around at her crew, then back at the humans. These aliens had weapons that could kill everyone on the ship in moments. They had a warship that could destroy the quantum echo without effort. But they were asking about the situation, not demanding surrender. "Our engines are completely destroyed," Zix explained. "Our life support systems are failing. We have perhaps 4 days of air remaining, maybe less. Our food and water will last about a week." Captain Chen nodded and spoke into a device on her wrist in rapid human language. Zix's translation computer caught only a few words. "Medical team engineering emergency supplies." "We are going to help you," Captain Chen said, turning back to Zix. "My people are bringing equipment to fix your life support systems. Our medical officer will check on your crew's health. Our engineers will see what we can do about your engines." Zix stared at the human captain. "You are going to help us just like that. You do not want anything in return." Captain Chen tilted her head as if the question confused her. "You sent a distress signal. You need help. That is enough." Before Zix could respond, more humans came through the airlock. These ones carried large cases of equipment and supplies. They moved quickly but carefully, like people who knew exactly what they were doing. One human, a smaller female with red hair, approached Dr. Catherley with a device that was obviously a medical scanner. She spoke in simple, slow words that the translation computer could handle better. "I am Dr. Rodriguez. I need to check your health. Is this acceptable?" Dr. Catherley looked at Zix, who nodded. The human doctor began scanning the Altarion medical officer, studying the readings with professional interest. Meanwhile, other humans had spread throughout the ship. Zix could hear them working in the engineering sections, their voices calling out measurements and instructions. They seemed to know what they were doing, even though they had never seen Altarion technology before. "Captain Chen," Zix said carefully, "may I ask why you are doing this? Your ship is obviously powerful. You could simply take what you want from us. Why help instead?" The human captain looked at her with an expression Zix could not read. "Because you asked for help," she said simply, "and because it is the right thing to do." The phrase was strange to Zix. In Altarion society, decisions were made by carefully analyzing costs and benefits. Treaties were negotiated. Agreements were made. Help was given in exchange for something equal in value, but these humans seemed to operate on completely different principles. A loud crash came from the engineering section, followed by human voices shouting. Zix felt her heart sink. Had something gone wrong? But Captain Chen just smiled slightly. "Do not worry. That is just Chief Petty Officer Martinez. He likes to take things apart to see how they work. Usually he can put them back together better than before." A few minutes later, a human voice called out over the ship's communication system. "Captain Chen, this is Martinez. Good news and bad news. Bad news is that their hyperdrive is completely destroyed. Good news is that we can get their life support running at full capacity within 2 hours. Their sublight engines are damaged but can be fixed. We can have them flying again, just not jumping to hyperspace." Captain Chen pressed her wrist device. "Understood, Martinez. What do you need?" "Some parts from our fabrication unit and maybe 6 more hours of work. These Altarion systems are actually quite elegant once you figure them out." Zix felt relief wash over her. They would live. Whatever happened next, her crew would not die in the cold darkness of space. "Captain Chen," she said, "I must ask again. What do you want in return for this help?" Our ship has scientific equipment that might be valuable. Our databases contain star charts and research data. We can offer. Captain Chen held up a hand to stop her. We do not want anything from you. We are happy to help. But there must be something. Some kind of trade, some kind of agreement, Zix insisted. The human captain shook her head. The only thing we want is for you to get home safely to your families. Zix felt her legs weaken. This was completely outside her understanding. No species helped others without expecting something in return. It went against the basic logic of survival and resource management. Dr. Rodriguez approached them looking concerned. Captain, I need to speak with you privately. The two humans moved to a corner of the room and talked in low voices. Zix could see Dr. Rodriguez pointing at her medical scanner and shaking her head. Captain Chen's expression grew serious. They came back to the group and Dr. Rodriguez addressed Dr. Cathali directly. Your people are suffering from oxygen deprivation and malnutrition. It is not critical yet, but it will be soon. We need to get some of our emergency air supplies connected to your life support system immediately. Dr. Keith Alley nodded weakly. Zix noticed for the first time that her medical officer's skin had a slightly blue tint that indicated low oxygen levels. How had she missed that? Martinez, Captain Chen called into her wrist device. Medical priority. We need emergency air supplies connected to their life support right now. On it, Captain. Give me 10 minutes. True to his word, 10 minutes later, the air on the ship began to smell fresher and cleaner. Zix took a deep breath and felt her mind clearing. She had not realized how bad the air had gotten. Dr. Kthali's color began to improve almost immediately. Dr. Rodriguez stayed close to her, monitoring her condition with obvious concern. Thank you, Dr. Keith Alley whispered to the human doctor. No need to thank me, Dr. Rodriguez replied. This is what we do. Over the next several hours, the humans worked with incredible efficiency. They fixed systems the Altarions had thought were beyond repair. They shared their food and water supplies without being asked. They even provided warm clothing when they noticed the Altarion crew was shivering in the cold. Zix watched all of this with growing amazement. These humans were clearly warriors. Their ship was built for combat. Their equipment was military, and they moved with the discipline of soldiers. But they treated the Altarions with gentle care, like precious cargo that needed protection. Veltar approached her with a puzzled expression. Commander, I have been monitoring human communications. They have been sending messages to other ships in their fleet. What kind of messages? Zix asked. They are reporting our situation and requesting additional supplies. But here's the strange part. They are also asking for diplomatic specialists and xenobiologists to be sent to our location. Why would they want diplomats? I think, Beltar said slowly, they want to make sure they handle first contact with our species correctly. They are worried about making mistakes that might offend us or cause problems later. Zix stared at him. These humans had just discovered an entirely new intelligent species, and their first concern was making sure they did not accidentally cause offense. Captain Chen noticed their conversation and walked over. Is there a problem? Captain Zix said carefully. My communications officer tells me you have contacted your fleet about us. Yes, Captain Chen said. We have reported the situation and requested additional assistance. What kind of assistance? People who are smarter than me about first contact situations. Scientists who can help us understand your technology better, so we can provide better repairs. Medical specialists in case your physiology is different enough to require special care. That sort of thing. Zix felt her worldview shifting. Everything she thought she knew about how intelligent species behaved was being challenged by these humans. Captain Chen, she said. In my experience, when two unknown species meet for the first time, the result is usually conflict, sometimes even war. You have superior technology and firepower. You could easily conquer our ship and take us prisoner. Why do you not? Captain Chen looked genuinely shocked by the question. Why would we do that? You have done nothing to harm us. You are just people who needed help. But we are competitors for resources. Our species might conflict over territory or trade routes in the future. That might happen, Captain Chen agreed. But it has not happened yet. Right now you are just people who need help. And we help people who need help. That is what humans do. Veltar, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. Captain Chen, our databases contain information about many species throughout the galaxy. Most of them follow what we call the standard model of first contact. A cautious approach, limited information exchange, lengthy negotiation periods, gradual trust building. You humans seem to follow a completely different model. Captain Chen smiled. What model is that? Help first, ask questions later. That sounds about right, Captain Chen agreed. Dr. Keith Ali stepped forward. Captain, may I ask about human history? Have your people always operated this way? Not always, Captain Chen admitted. Humans have fought wars, made mistakes, done terrible things to each other and to our environment. But we learned from those mistakes. We decided that the universe has enough cruelty in it already. We do not need to add more. How did you learn this? Zix asked. Captain Chen was quiet for a moment, and Zix could see old pain in the human's eyes. My grandmother used to tell me stories about the old days before humans learned to work together. Wars that killed millions, disasters that could have been prevented if people had just helped each other instead of fighting over resources. She always ended those stories the same way. Sarah, she would say, the universe is vast and dangerous. The only way any of us survive is if we take care of each other. And your entire species believes this? Zix asked. Not all of us, Captain Chen said honestly. Humans are not perfect. We still have people who are selfish or cruel, but most of us try to live by a simple rule. Treat others the way you would want to be treated if you were in their situation. Bixtel asked, what if the others do not deserve help? What if they are criminals or enemies? Everyone deserves basic medical care and safety, Captain Chen replied. After that, there can be discussions about justice and consequences, but first you keep people alive. An alert suddenly came from the Defiant Resolve's bridge. Captain Chen pressed her wrist device. Captain, this is Lieutenant Commander Park. We are detecting multiple contacts approaching at high speed. Captain Chen's expression became serious immediately. How many? 5 contacts. Unknown configuration. Estimated arrival time 37 minutes. Zix felt her blood turn cold. Captain Chen, this sector is supposed to be empty. There should not be any ships here. Captain Chen was already moving toward the airlock. We need to get back to our ship immediately. Commander Zix Thera, I want you and your crew to prepare for emergency maneuvers. What kind of ships could they be? Dr. Cathali asked. Beltar was working frantically at his communication console. Commander, I am getting energy readings on long-range sensors. These signatures, they match krill hunting ships. The name sent a wave of terror through every Altarion on the bridge. The krill were legends, nightmare stories told to frighten children. Ancient predators that swept through civilized space every few generations, harvesting technology and enslaving entire populations. Are you certain? Zix asked, though she could see the answer in Veltar's terrified expression. The energy signatures are unmistakable. 5 krill bioships, each one capable of destroying a dozen ships like ours. Captain Chen had stopped at the airlock. She looked back at the Altarions, and Zix could see the human making a decision. Defiant Resolve. This is the captain. Prepare for combat operations. All hands to battle stations, Captain Chen, Zix said urgently. You do not understand. The krill are not just another hostile species. They are living nightmares. Their ships are grown, not built. They have weapons that can tear holes in space itself. No single ship has ever survived an encounter with a krill hunting pack. Captain Chen nodded calmly. Then I guess we will be the first. You should run, Zix insisted. Your ship is fast. You can escape before they arrive. There is no shame in retreating from the krill. Leave us here defenseless. We are already doomed anyway. There is no point in both ships being destroyed. Captain Chen looked at her with an expression that Zix would remember for the rest of her life. It was not anger or fear or resignation. It was something much simpler and much more powerful. Commander, Captain Chen said quietly, we do not abandon people who need help. That is not who we are, she pressed her wrist device. All human personnel returned to the Defiant Resolve immediately. We have incoming hostiles. As the human crew gathered their equipment and prepared to leave, Martinez approached Bixtel one last time. If we do not survive this, he said simply, remember what I taught you about the environmental systems. Take care of your people. Dr. Rodriguez pressed a small device into Dr. Cathali's hands. This is a medical scanner calibrated for Altarion physiology. Use it to monitor your crew's health. One by one, the humans said their goodbyes as if they were saying farewell to old friends instead of aliens they had met only hours before. Captain Chen was the last to leave. She stood at the airlock and looked at Zix. Captain, Zix said desperately, please reconsider. You do not owe us anything. You have already done more than anyone could expect. "Commander," Captain Chen replied. "You sent out a distress call," we answered. "That means something to us. It means we take responsibility for your safety." My crew volunteered for military service, knowing that sometimes we would have to risk our lives to protect others. This is what we signed up for. The airlock sealed and the docking tube disconnected. Through the viewports, Zix watched the massive human warship move into a defensive position between the quantum echo and the approaching threat. On her communication system, Captain Chen's voice was calm and professional. "Quantum echo, this is Defiant Resolve. We are moving to intercept the hostiles. Stay behind us and be prepared to run if we give the order." "Defiant Resolve," Zix replied, her voice breaking. "Thank you, just doing our job, Commander. See you on the other side." Zix looked around at her crew. They were all staring at the human ship, watching as it prepared to face impossible odds to protect strangers. "Commander," Veltar whispered, "what kind of species does this? What kind of people risk everything for aliens they just met?" Zix watched the Defiant Resolve charge its weapons and orient toward the approaching krill fleet. She thought about Captain Chen's words, about Martinez teaching Bixtel, about Dr. Rodriguez caring for Dr. Keith Ali, about a human grandmother teaching her granddaughter that the only way to survive was to take care of each other. The kind of species, she said softly, that the universe has been waiting for. In the distance, 5 dark shapes appeared against the stars, growing larger as they approached. The krill had arrived, and the most important battle in galactic history was about to begin. The krill ships emerged from hyperspace like nightmares given form. Zix had seen pictures of krill vessels in historical databases, but seeing them with her own eyes was far more terrifying. These were not ships in any conventional sense. They were living creatures bred and grown for war, each one the size of a small moon. Their hulls were black and organic, pulsing with veins of dark energy. Weapon pods grew from their surfaces like tumors, and their fronts were shaped like massive jaws lined with teeth made of crystallized metal. They moved through space with the fluid grace of sea creatures. Completely silent, utterly alien. "By the Ancient Ones," whispered Dr. Keith Ali, "they are even worse than the stories say." The lead krill bioship was larger than the others, its hull covered in scars from 1,000 battles. Bony protrusions jutted from its surface and its weapon arrays glowed with malevolent energy. This was a creature that had devoured entire fleets. The Defiant Resolve looked tiny in comparison, a metal dart facing down 5 living mountains. But the human ship did not retreat. Instead, it accelerated toward the krill formation, its own weapons charging for battle. "Quantum echo," Captain Chen's voice came over the communication system. "Stay back and monitor the situation. If we fail, run. Do not try to help us. Get your people to safety." Zix pressed the communication button with shaking hands. "Defiant Resolve, you are outnumbered 5 to 1. Each of those ships is larger than a dozen of yours. Please reconsider." "Understood, Quantum Echo. We have engaged the enemy before. We know what we are doing." But as Zix watched, she wondered if any species could know what they were doing when facing the krill. These creatures had been the terror of space for millennia. They had destroyed civilizations that were older and more advanced than humanity could possibly be. The first attack came without warning. The largest krill bioship opened its massive jaws and spat out a stream of living darkness. The weapon tore through space like liquid shadow, reaching out to engulf the human ship. But the Defiant Resolve was no longer where the attack had been aimed. The human ship had jinked sideways at the last instant, moving with an agility that should have been impossible for something so large. Captain Chen's response was immediate and violent. The Defiant Resolve fired everything it had. Energy beams, missile salvos, projectile weapons Zix had never seen before. All of it focused on the lead krill ship. The barrage was so intense that space itself seemed to burn. Most species would have tried to avoid the krill, to fight at long range where their superior technology might give them an advantage. But the humans did the opposite. They flew straight into the enemy formation using their speed and maneuverability to stay ahead of the bioship's attacks. "Impossible," breathed Bixtel. "They are fighting the krill at close range. No one fights the krill at close range." The human ship spun and twisted through space, its weapons never stopping. Every time a krill bioship tried to bring its main weapons to bear, the Defiant Resolve was somewhere else, striking at weak points and vulnerable spots. But the krill were learning. The smaller bioships began to coordinate their attacks. forcing the human ship into a smaller and smaller area of maneuverable space. Dark energy weapons reached out from multiple directions, and several times Zix was certain the Defiant Resolve had been destroyed. Each time, the human ship somehow survived. Its hull glowed with heat from near misses. Armor plating was stripped away by glancing blows, but it kept fighting. "Defiant Resolve," Zix called desperately. "Your ship is taking damage. You should disengage. Negative quantum echo. We are doing fine." But they were not doing fine. Zix could see atmosphere venting from several breaches in the human ship's hull. Its weapon fire was becoming less coordinated, suggesting that some of its systems had been damaged. The krill sensed weakness and pressed their attack. All 5 bioships converged on the Defiant Resolve, their living weapons reaching out like grasping tentacles. For a moment, the human ship disappeared completely in a ball of dark energy. When the energy cleared, the Defiant Resolve was still there, but barely. Half of its weapon systems were offline. Its engines were sputtering. Emergency lights flickered along its damaged hull. The largest krill bioship moved in for the kill, its massive jaws opening to devour the crippled human vessel. That was when Captain Chen did something that no military strategist in the galaxy would have recommended. Instead of trying to escape, she ordered her ship to ram the krill bioship head-on. The Defiant Resolve accelerated directly toward the creature's open mouth, firing everything it had remaining. The bioship tried to close its jaws and turn away, but it was too late. The human ship struck the krill creature at the base of its throat, punching through organic armor and penetrating deep into its body. The bioship's scream was transmitted through subspace, a sound of pain and rage that made every Altarion on the quantum echo clutch their ears. But the ram attack had cost the humans dearly. The Defiant Resolve was embedded in the dying krill bioship. Its front section was crushed. Its engines were dead. Emergency pods began launching from various parts of the ship as the human crew abandoned their vessel. The remaining 4 krill bioships circled like predators, preparing to destroy both the embedded human ship and the escape pods. Zix made a decision that surprised even herself. "All power to engines," she ordered. "Take us toward the battle." "Commander," Bixtel stared at her in shock. "We have no weapons. Our ship is not built for combat." "We are not going to fight," Zix said. "We are going to rescue the human survivors. The krill will destroy us the moment we enter the battle area. Maybe. But Captain Chen risked her ship and crew to save us. We cannot do less for them." The quantum echo moved toward the battle at its maximum speed, which was painfully slow compared to the military vessels. As they approached, Zix could see the human escape pods scattered across space. Defenseless against the approaching krill, quantum echo, "This is Captain Chen." The human's voice came over the radio transmitted from one of the escape pods. "What are you doing?" "I ordered you to run." "We are coming to pick up your people," Zix replied. "Absolutely not. The krill will kill you all. Get out of here," Zix said firmly. "You told me that humans do not abandon people who need help. Well, neither do Altarions. Not anymore." One of the smaller krill bioships had noticed the approaching quantum echo and was turning toward them, its weapon pods glowing with malevolent energy. "Incoming krill ship," Veltar reported, his voice tight with fear. "It will be in weapons range in 60 seconds. How long to reach the first escape pod?" Zix asked. 90 seconds. They were not going to make it. That was when something unexpected happened. The Defiant Resolve, still embedded in the dead krill bioship, suddenly exploded. But it was not the explosion of a ship being destroyed. It was a controlled detonation deliberately triggered. The human ship had turned itself into a massive bomb, and the explosion tore through 2 more of the krill bioships. In the confusion that followed, with krill creatures screaming in pain and the surviving bioships trying to reorganize, the quantum echo reached the first cluster of escape pods. "Emergency docking procedures," Zix ordered. "Get those humans aboard as quickly as possible." The Altarion crew worked with desperate efficiency, pulling human survivors aboard through emergency airlocks. Many of the humans were injured, and Dr. Keith Ali did her best to provide medical care with the equipment Dr. Rodriguez had given her. Quantum echo. "This is Lieutenant Commander Park." The voice came from one of the pods. "I am the senior surviving officer. Captain Chen's pod was damaged in the explosion. We need to reach her immediately." "Where is she?" "Bearing 27 Mark 5. About 3 kilometers from your position." Zix looked at her sensors. Captain Chen's escape pod was drifting directly toward one of the surviving krill bioships. "We see her." Zix said. We are moving to intercept. The Quantum Echo changed course, racing toward the damaged escape pod. Behind them, the two surviving krill bioships were recovering from the explosion and beginning to pursue. Commander, Veltar said urgently, the krill ships are gaining on us. Our engines cannot outrun them. Zix looked at the tactical display. The math was simple and terrible. They could reach Captain Chen's pod, but they would not have time to dock and rescue her before the krill caught up. Unless, Bixtel, she called to her engineer. Can you transfer all power from life support and artificial gravity to the engines? Yes, but we would only have about 10 minutes of air and we would be floating around the ship without gravity. Do it. The lights dimmed as power was redirected. The artificial gravity shut off and everyone began floating. But the Quantum Echo accelerated, closing the distance to Captain Chen's pod. They reached her just as the first krill bioship came into weapons range. Emergency pickup, Zix ordered. 30 seconds maximum. Dr. Cathali and 2 other Altarions flew through the ship's corridors in zero gravity, reaching the airlock where Captain Chen's damaged pod had just docked. The airlock cycled open and Captain Chen floated inside. She was conscious but clearly injured, her human blood bright red against her pale skin. You came back for me, she said weakly. Of course we did, Dr. Cathali replied, helping the human captain toward the bridge. That is what friends do. Behind them, dark energy weapons reached out from the pursuing krill bioships, barely missing the Quantum Echo's engines. All humans recovered, Lieutenant Commander Park reported. 17 survivors total. Power restored to engines, Bixtel called out. But we are still not fast enough to escape. Zix looked at the tactical display one more time. The 2 surviving krill bioships were closing in, their weapons charging for a final attack. They had saved the humans, but now they were all going to die together. Then Captain Chen, bleeding and barely conscious, spoke from where Dr. Keith Alley was treating her injuries. Quantum Echo, she said weakly. Set course for the ancient station. The one that damaged your ship originally, what? Zix stared at her. Captain, that station is what got us into this mess in the first place. Trust me, Captain Chen whispered. Sometimes the thing that hurts you once can save you later. Zix looked at the approaching krill ships, then at the ancient station that still floated in the distance. Dark and silent. She made her choice. Set course for the ancient station, she ordered. Maximum speed. As the Quantum Echo raced toward the mysterious structure with the krill in pursuit, Zix wondered if they were flying toward salvation or simply choosing the manner of their death. Either way, they would face it together, human and Altarion united by something stronger than species or technology. They had found something worth dying for each other. The ancient station grew larger in the viewports as the Quantum Echo raced toward it at maximum speed. Behind them, the 2 surviving krill bioships followed like living shadows, their weapons charging for a final killing blow. Captain Chen, Zix called to the injured human officer who was being treated by Dr. Kthali. What exactly are we hoping to find at that station? Captain Chen struggled to sit up, her face pale from blood loss. When your ship first approached the station, it came alive and attacked you, right? Yes, but it was defending something. Stations like that are usually automated guardians. If we can get close enough to trigger its defenses again, it will attack us too. Zix pointed out, we barely survived the first time. Maybe. Captain Chen agreed. But the krill are right behind us. At least this way we have a chance. Lieutenant Commander Park, the senior surviving human officer, floated over to join the conversation. Captain, with respect, that station crippled the Quantum Echo with a single shot. If it fires on us again, then we die trying something instead of just running until we get caught. Captain Chen replied, sometimes that is the best you can do. Through the ship's communication system, Veltar's voice called out urgently, Commander, the krill are gaining on us. They will be in weapons range in 2 minutes. How long until we reach the station? Zix asked. 3 minutes, maybe 4. They were not going to make it. Zix looked around the bridge at the mixed crew of humans and Altarions working together. A few hours ago, these species had never met. Now they were united in a desperate attempt to survive. All stop, she ordered suddenly. Commander. Bixtel stared at her in shock. If we stop, the krill will catch us exactly. Zix turned to face the group. We cannot outrun them and we cannot fight them, but maybe we can outsmart them. Captain Chen's eyes lit up with understanding. You want to let them catch us? I want them to think they have caught us. Veltar, can you make our engines look like they have failed? Make it seem like we are drifting helplessly. Veltar's fingers danced over his controls. I can shut down the main engines and vent some plasma to make it look like we have been damaged. But Commander, if this does not work, we were dead anyway, Zix said simply. The quantum echo suddenly went dark and began to drift. From the outside, it would look like their engines had finally failed, leaving them defenseless in space. The krill took the bait. Both bioships slowed their approach, circling the apparently helpless vessel like predators, savoring their victory. Through the viewport, Zix could see their organic hulls pulsing with anticipation. They are moving into capture position, Lieutenant Commander Park observed. They want to take us alive. That is what I was hoping for, Zix said. How close are we to the ancient station? 2 kilometers and closing. We are drifting toward it on residual momentum. The larger of the 2 krill bioships moved closer to the quantum echo, extending what looked like metallic tentacles to grab hold of the smaller ship. The creature's massive jaws opened slightly, revealing rows of crystalline teeth designed to tear through metal. 1 kilometer to the station, Beltar reported. Whatever we are going to do, we need to do it soon. That was when the ancient station came alive, just as it had when the quantum echo first approached. Lights blazed along the massive structure's surface. Weapon systems that had been dormant for millennia rotated toward the new arrivals. And this time there were multiple targets to choose from. The station's artificial intelligence, or whatever passed for intelligence in something so old, made its choice quickly. The krill bioships were clearly the greater threat, armed and aggressive while the quantum echo was apparently helpless. The station fired. The beam that lanced out from the ancient structure was not the relatively gentle warning shot that had disabled the quantum echo days earlier. This was the full power of a defensive system built by a species that had faced the krill before and learned to fear them. The energy beam struck the larger krill. Bioship amidships and the creature's scream echoed through subspace as its organic hull was torn open. The bioship tried to retreat, but the station's weapons tracked its movement, firing again and again until the living vessel was nothing but expanding gases and twisted metal. The second krill bioship tried to flee, but the ancient station's targeting systems were implacable. Another beam reached out across space, striking the creature in its propulsion organs. Crippled, the bioship spun helplessly as the station's weapons finished it off. In the space of 30 seconds, the ancient guardian had destroyed 2 of the most feared predators in the galaxy. By the ancient ones, Dr. Cathali whispered. What species built something that powerful? Captain Chen smiled weakly. A species that understood the same thing humans learned. Sometimes you have to fight the monsters, no matter how big they are. The ancient station's weapons powered down and its lights dimmed back to their dormant state. But before it returned to complete silence, something unexpected happened. Beltar's communication console lit up with an incoming signal. Commander, he said in amazement. The station is trying to communicate with us. Can you translate it? It is using very old protocols, but I think yes, I can make out some words. The voice that came through the speakers was mechanical and ancient, speaking in a language that predated most known civilizations, but the translation computer was able to extract meaning from it. Greetings, travelers. The krill threat has been eliminated. Are you in need of assistance? Zix stared at the communication panel. It is asking if we need help. Just like we did, Captain Chen observed. Maybe that is what this station was built for. Not to attack travelers, but to protect them from things like the krill. Lieutenant Commander Park was studying the sensor readings. If that is true, then why did it attack the quantum echo originally? Because we were scanning it with active sensors, Zix realized. It probably interpreted that as hostile action. But ships that are just passing through or ships that are clearly in distress, it protects them, Captain Chen finished. Beltar looked up from his console. Commander, the station is transmitting again. The ancient voice filled the bridge once more. Unknown vessels, your ship shows signs of damage. This station can provide basic repairs and supplies. Do you wish to accept assistance? Zix looked around at her mixed crew of humans and Altarions. They had all been through so much together. They had saved each other's lives, learned from each other, fought side by side against impossible odds. Veltar, open a channel, she ordered. Channel open, Commander. Ancient Station. This is Commander Zix Thera of the Altarion vessel Quantum Echo. We accept your offer of assistance, and thank you for saving us from the krill. It is the purpose for which this station was built, the mechanical voice replied. To protect travelers from the darkness between stars. Please proceed to Docking Bay 7. Repairs will begin immediately. As the quantum echo moved toward the massive station, Captain Chen struggled to her feet despite Dr. Cathali's protests. Captain, you should rest, the Altarion doctor said. Your injuries are serious. I will rest soon, Captain Chen promised. But first I need to send a message to Earth Command. She moved to the communication console and began composing a report. Zix watched her work, curious about what the human would say about their first contact with an alien species. What will you tell your people about us? She asked. Captain Chen looked up from her work. The truth, that we met a species of scientists and explorers who risked their lives to save strangers, that when the worst predators in the galaxy threatened us, you did not run away. You came back for us, we learned that from you, Zix said. You showed us what it means to help others without expecting anything in return. And you showed us that such lessons can spread from one species to another, Captain Chen replied. That maybe if we are lucky, they can spread throughout the entire galaxy. Lieutenant Commander Park was working at the sensor station. Captain, I am detecting multiple ships approaching from the direction of our patrol route. Human vessels. Reinforcements? Yes, ma'am. Looks like a full squadron. They must have received our distress signal. Through the viewports, new stars appeared in the distance. But unlike the dark, threatening shapes of the krill bioships, these lights were warm and welcoming. They were coming to help. More ships coming from the other direction too, Veltar reported. Those are Altarion vessels. A rescue fleet. Zix smiled. It seems both our species care about their people. Good, Captain Chen said. That will make the negotiations much easier. Negotiations? Captain Chen's smile was warm despite her exhaustion. Commander, after what we have been through together, do you really think our species are going to remain strangers? We have work to do. Treaties to write. Technologies to share. Stories to tell. She turned back to her communication console. And I know exactly how I am going to end my report. How? Zix asked. Captain Chen's fingers moved over the controls as she added the final lines to her message to Earth Command. When asked why the humans risked everything for strangers, she wrote. The answer was simple. Because they called for help. And when someone calls for help, you answer every time without hesitation, without question, without fail. She paused, then added one more line. Today we learned that we are not alone in believing this. The universe is full of species waiting to help each other. They just needed someone to show them how. 3 months later, the first joint human Altarion research station was established at the site of the ancient Guardian. The station served as a symbol of cooperation between the two species. But more importantly, it served as a beacon. Other species hearing the story of the battle against the krill came to investigate. They found not conquerors or competitors, but partners willing to share knowledge and resources freely. The Regellian Trade Consortium arrived first, followed by the Centauri Science Collective, then the Vegan Agricultural Union. Each species came expecting the usual negotiations and careful exchanges of the standard model. Instead, they found something unprecedented, a growing alliance based not on mutual benefit or shared threat, but on a simple principle learned from humanity. Help first, ask questions later. Within a year, 17 species had joined what became known as the Galactic Cooperation Initiative. Within 5 years, that number had grown to 43. The memorial station built at the battle site bore a simple inscription in dozens of languages. They answered the call, but the real memorial was not carved in stone or metal. It was written in the actions of every ship that stopped to help a vessel in distress, every species that shared their knowledge freely, every being that chose cooperation over competition. The krill, those ancient predators that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia, found that their hunting had become much more difficult. Ships no longer traveled alone through the dark spaces between stars. When one ship sent out a distress call, others answered always. The krill adapted by avoiding the main trade routes and concentrating on isolated systems. But even there, they found that their prey had changed. Species that had once fled in terror now fought back using tactics and technologies shared freely among the Alliance. Some krill packs were destroyed. Others simply disappeared into the deep darkness of intergalactic space, seeking easier prey among species that had not yet learned the value of cooperation. And in the archives of every member species, the story was recorded for future generations. The story of first contact between humans and Altarions. The story of Captain Sarah Chen and Commander Zix Thera. The story of how two species learned that the universe was not a battlefield but a community. The story of how someone called for help and someone else answered without hesitation. It was a simple story, really. But simple stories told often enough can change the universe. The stars no longer seemed cold and distant. They were stepping stones on a path that connected every species, every world, every being who believed in something greater than themselves. They had learned the most important lesson in the cosmos. When someone calls for help, you answer every time without hesitation, because that is what defines us all.